Hello, my name is Rob Garner. I'm a computer programming instructor, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to make a multi-file C++ program. So I already have a project opened, and if we look at this project, we see that we have a typical C++ program which has a number of function prototypes declared at the top, a main function, and multiple functions inside the same file. And this works alright if you have just a few functions, but over time you may have applications which will have a large number of functions you need to access. So at that point we need to have a way of placing our functions in separate files. And so typically what we do is we have a series of header files and source files for the functions that work as library files, and the function prototypes will go in the header files, and we'll place the function bodies in a .cpp file, and then the using file, where main is in our case, will then just include that header file, and it will get access to all those functions. So let's see what that looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is right click on header and add a new item. I'm going to make a header file, and I'm going to call this functions.h for my functions. And typically this name will match whatever the functionality you have. In our case it's just some generic functions. Then what I'm going to do is so now that functions.h is open, I'm going to go back to my original program and take the function prototypes and place them in my functions.h file. I'm also going to copy the includes and the using because my functions.h needs those as well. You notice that before I did that I had errors because it didn't recognize what string was. When I add them in, it now knows what they are. I also want to have a comment header up in here just so someone looking at this program knows what it's about. Looking at this, I can tell I probably don't need this IO stream include, so I'm going to remove it. And it looks like it's okay. And I'm going to save this. Now if we were to compile this, I think we would probably get an error at this point because we took out the header files. It can't identify what write hello is or ask name. So we're not going to do that, but what we will do is we will include in main that header file. So we removed all the information, the headers or the function prototypes from our main CPP file, and we placed it in functions.h by using this include statement that references functions.h. And notice that we use double quotes rather than the angle braces. This will include it back in, and I think that will allow it to work again. So we can see we removed that information, and now main is smaller, but the next step is to take these functions and place them into a file. So under source files, I'm going to add a new item, and we're going to add a CPP file called functions.cpp. And there's my functions.cpp, and similarly to what we did before, we're going to take all of the function bodies from our program, remove them, and place them in the CPP file. And we see we have errors because it doesn't have string and it doesn't have IOStream. So we're going to also copy all those includes we had and place them at the top. Notice that you include the functions.h. Functions.cpp needs access to functions.h because it needs access to these function prototypes, so generally speaking we include that in the CPP as well. And I'm going to copy the header over again so we have something that explains what this is about. And those are our function bodies, and this is our functions.cpp file. I'll save it, and let's see if this still works. And it does. Notice that we didn't need to include functions.cpp. We don't need to because we have functions. We've included functions.h. That actually is enough to give us access to the CPP files. So this works. We've got a functions.h and a functions.cpp. There's one other thing that we need to do. We need to also consider the fact that it's possible that we could have these functions could be so useful that we could have multiple libraries or multiple programs that reference them. So suppose that we had another functions program and it used functions.h. Well, if it did, what would happen is that when we compiled these this code, if we had another include that referenced that also referenced functions.h, we could potentially have a problem where the compiler comes to functions.h, adds these references, and then in the second program or in the second library does the same thing. And if it try to define, for example, write hello 2 times or ask for a name 2 times, it'll say function already defined and it will error out. So we need to protect against that, and the way we do that is using some preprocessor directives, specifically if in def and define. And what these will do is they will define everything between everything in here is defined as something called functions_h. And by convention, what we do is we take the name of the .h file and we capitalize it, and we put an underscore before it, and we put an underscore before the h. And then we wrap that in an if and def directive, which is terminated by an end if statement. And basically what this does is when we compile, it says if functions.h has not been defined yet, then define all this stuff. And so it defines function.h as that code right there. This will prevent multiple declarations of happening. And so in all your .h files, you should use these preprocessor directives: if in def, define, and then an indef. We kind of do that by convention, but from a practical perspective, this has to be done. So let's see if this works. And it seems to work. So the next thing to do is just cleaning it up a little bit. I'm going to add a comment block. Commenting is important. And we'll save that. Also, by convention, we often call the main program that drives everything something driver. And that completes this demonstration. To review, when you want to move your functions into a separate file, you actually move it into two separate files. You put the headers in a functions.h and the actual bodies of the functions in a functions.cpp. Of course, you'll name this whatever makes sense, because you could actually have multiples of these different functions files, each with an h and a .cpp file. In the .h, you use these directives, the if and def and define directives and the end if directive, in order to make sure that you don't declare your functions twice. And then that allows you to make main nice and small and easy to read and easy to understand. And so you should, to the maximum extent possible, move your functions outside of the main program. This completes my demonstration. Thank you very much.